3 priests, and now our 4th round of speeches. So, we do things in large quantities here. So I think it's safe to say that I can speak for everyone in the room and say, Laura, you look absolutely breathtaking. And Henry, you are radiating with happiness, and it's a wonderful thing to see, and it just, the mic's on, okay. You radiate with happiness, and it's just contagious throughout this entire facility. So, congratulations to you both. So much like Miles, I could come up with 1,000 different heartfelt, funny, embarrassing stories to share with you all tonight, and so could my husband Josh. But to be efficient and to get this party rocking, we're just going to stick to 3 quick stories. So, story number 1. I am very, very confident that anyone who knows Henry has experienced a moment or two when he gets a little bit obsessive, to put it mildly. My first recollection of this was when Henry was 4 years old. We are at a local Italian restaurant, Matucci's, in Mount Carmel, and it was a very regular occurrence for us. So we're sitting at this red and white checkered table, about ready to devour this delicious pizza. And my grandmother Rose decides to enlighten the family on her latest reading in a Reader's Digest magazine. And in that Reader's Digest magazine, it said that in order to maximize the flavor of your meal and to optimize the performance of your digestive tract, you're supposed to chew every bite of food 32 times. So little 4-year-old Henry heard every word of that. 2 hours later, he was maximizing the flavor of that very first slice of pizza.
Now, for those of you who may question the authenticity of the Reader Digest bit, I assure you, if you pull up your smartphone and you Google that, you will find a Reader's Digest article from the mid-90s referencing 32 bites, or 32 chews on every bite of food. It is 100% true. But when I look at Henry, I don't see obsessive. I see committed, I see dedicated, I see focused. I see a guy who goes after whatever it is he wants. He sees it through, and that shows through in not only his personal life, but his career, his professional life as well.
Story number 2. I think everyone in this room would also agree that Henry is a large mass of a human being. Born into this world on December 30th, 1988, a whopping 10 pound 9 ounces, he stayed on that high track of growth. Oh, that was 2 weeks early, he just told me. Okay, 2 weeks early. So I'm 5.5 years older than Henry, but I was quickly undersized. So we used to get into altercations all the time, just with our age difference, fighting left and right, and we were at each other's throats, quite literally. And then one time, I saw the light, and it was on a family vacation. We were on our way, packed in a wooden station wagon, on our way to the beach. I mean, it was packed to the brim, Hen's in the middle of the back seat, strapped in, sleeping soundly, chin raised, up high in the air, mouth wide open, a little bit of drool coming out. And the night before, I had just watched my very first episode, or very first show of Karate Kid. So I channeled my inner Ralph Macchio, and I got my karate chop hand, and I sliced it at his Adam's apple. He woke up stunned, unable to speak, unable to talk, and he didn't even know what to do with himself. But I can tell you, from that point forward, you will never, and Laura, you can attest to this, he will never be exposed. Or it's Adam's apple, will never be exposed. Again, he sleeps all, like, nice and tucked under, his arms ready to pounce. His arms ready to pounce if anybody comes at him. So the moral of story number 2.
Henry is humble enough to admit when he's made a mistake. He accepts that. He makes note of it. And he is cautious enough to make sure he never, ever makes that mistake again.
And story number 3 was how Henry and Laura met. So I don't know if there might be some people in the room who don't know the story. So Laura, being the professional police detective, law enforcement officer she is, she was out making her rounds one night and saw a little bit of suspicious vehicle driving by. So she decided to pull it over. Happened to be a couple of Hen's friends. They exchanged a few words. She let him off the hook, no big deal. But in exchange, what happened was she got an invitation by them to come to a house party that night. So after shift, Laura shows up at this house party, which ended up being at Henry's house. And as she walks through that door, she immediately caught Henry's eye, along with every other eligible football player at that party. So Hen's looking around, and he knows what he's up against, because there's a lot of competition. Not to mention that Laura is a professional and beautiful, speaks 4 different languages, and models on the side. So, somehow, this guy right here, ended up getting this girl right here. So, story number 3 ends with...
It's safe to say that Henry sets the bar high. Since he was old enough to walk and talk, he had one goal, and that was to follow in his father's footsteps and play professional football. Where, for most children, and many have a dream to play a professional sport of some type, for most kids, it is nothing but a dream. But for Henry, it was just a goal. And when he sets a goal, he achieves it. So, Mary briefly touched on 3 finite moments in Henry's past, but it was a glimpse into some moments of Henry's life that helped to sort of create the character and weave the fabric that is Henry. And we see the same thing in war. We see dedication, we see hard work, we see commitment in law enforcement, and we know that those attributes, they're the backbone, they're the cornerstone of a healthy and strong marriage. And when we look at you two, and the way that you look at each other, we know without a doubt that you guys will have a wonderful, happy marriage, filled with love and warmth.
And lots of babies.
And if I can add one thing, I hope one of those babies is as big a pain in the ass to you as you were and are to your father. I think we're ready to make a quick toast. Again, in keeping with multiple